Hi. So if you're watching this screencast, what that means is that your boxes and bullets plan for your analytical essay on theme is complete, and you're ready to start taking the plan and transforming it into paragraph form. So I want to model that for you. I think that's a step in the writing process that we as writing teachers can take for granted, that it just seems so obvious to us how you take a plan and turn it into a paragraph. But I want to break it down for you step by step and kind of take the lid off of my head and reveal my thinking that goes on inside my head when I do that. So the teaching point for today that I want you to understand is that information writers, which is what you are when you're writing an analytical essay, regardless of whatever genre or text structure they're writing in, boxes and bullets, compare, contrast, whatever it is, they all elaborate on important points and ideas. And I want to highlight this word, elaborate. You need to be able to explain in detail why you think what you think. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Literary information writers in particular, which is what you're doing, you're writing about literature, they have to cite evidence from the story that they're writing about by analyzing specific details and examples, as well as direct quotes from the text. We talked about what analyzing means. We said that that means to examine something closely and thoughtfully and kind of looking at all of its parts and how those parts work together to build up to something bigger, in this case a theme. So today's lesson is really focusing on the importance of using those specific details and those examples and maybe those quotes to elaborate on the point you're trying to make. So I'm modeling this for you with a theme essay on Lillian Hecker's short story, The Stolen Party. This is the theme claim that I am going to set out to prove or support in my essay. In The Stolen Party, Hecker uses Rosara's experience to make the reader realize that some experiences, which help us grow up, can be painful and disappointing. So I shared my plan with you already, and you'll recall that the first of three reasons that I'm giving, under the rule of three, the first of three reasons I'm going to give for why I think this is a theme from the story is that part of growing up is exerting some independence from your parents. And we see Rosara do that. In the beginning of the story, she really exerts her independence from her mother in several ways. I want to point out to you that I'm using my first body paragraph. Since this is my first reason in my essay plan, it will become my first body paragraph. I'm using that to establish the fact that this is really about growing up. This story is a piece of her path or her journey towards growing up. Since that's such a big part of my thesis claim, I need to lay the groundwork for the fact that she actually is in the process of growing up. So in order to lay that groundwork, I'm using my first body paragraph to talk about how we see her growing up in this in particular way of exerting this independence from her mom. And we see it on the first page of the story. Here's my three pieces of supporting evidence to back up my claim. I say many of us begin to feel moments of judgment towards our parents as we grow up. This is my own writing, my own thinking. We see Rosara going through this in the story, and then here's my quote from the book. The girl didn't approve of the way her mother spoke. This, to me, shows that she's being judgmental towards her mom, and I'm going to make the case for that. My next piece of evidence is that another part of growing up is kind of sassing back or talking back to our parents. And here's an example where she says, I'm going because I've been invited, and I'm invited because Luciana is my friend, so there. And finally, she says, shut up, you know nothing about being friends. She yells at her mom. That's kind of just another piece of that sassing or back talk. One thing I want to point out to you that's on my plan, these numbers in parentheses. These are the page numbers of where this evidence came from. I'm citing where my evidence came from in the text. You must do the same thing. If you don't know where in the story that evidence came from, you still have your book. Go back and find it. A literary academic writer cannot use evidence without citing their sources. Full stop. It has to be done. I know it's tedious. You have to do it. So, you've seen all this before. This is my plan. Well, how the heck do you turn that into a paragraph? Ready? It's magic time. I've color-coded this to help you see what I've done. This is my first body paragraph that I used that plan to make. You'll see that I have a topic sentence. I have evidence that's in green. I have my own analysis, my own thinking and explanation and elaboration on that evidence in pink. And then in black, there's transitions, there's connecting phrases that make it all flow nicely together. I'll read it through top to bottom and then talk a little bit about each section. Part of growing up involves exerting independence from your parents. In the beginning of the story, Rosara exerts her independence from her mother in several ways. Pause right there. Do you see how with that sentence I'm setting up the reader of my essay to understand what the rest of this paragraph is going to be about? I'm gently bringing them into my ideas so that there's no confusion. I start by setting this general statement that part of growing up is exerting independence, and then my next sentence relates to the story and how this idea of exerting independence from your parents being part of growing up plays out in the story. Now my reader is ready for me to move on. One of the first ways that we see Rosara separate herself from her mother is in the judgment she feels towards her mother's way of speaking. And then I lead smoothly into the proof of this. The girl didn't approve of the way her mother spoke. When her mother made comments such as, you think you fart higher than your ass. Another aspect of growing up is talking back to our parents. We see this behavior in Rosara when she snaps, I'm going because I've been invited, and I'm invited because I'm Luciana's friend, so there. When her mother challenges Rosara's belief that Luciana is her friend, Rosara's backtalk escalates as she yells, shut up, you know nothing about being friends. So there's the bulk of my evidence to support my claim that she's definitely exerting independence. Now, I can't just assume the reader of my essay is going to believe me, that they're going to see this the way I see it. If I just leave it at that, I lose control over what the reader of my essay is thinking. I need to show them exactly how I want them to be thinking about that evidence. And I do it here in my analysis. Feeling judgmental toward our parents and voicing our disagreements with sass or backtalk are universal experiences as we grow up and become more independent. By including these moments early on in the stolen party, Hecker establishes her protagonist as a young girl who is growing up and sees herself as different than her mother in important ways. By starting with this topic sentence, giving specific details from the text to prove that it is true that in the beginning of the story she's exerting independence, and then by including my own thinking about why it's important that we realize she is growing up and exerting her independence, I am making a complete package of this understanding, and now my reader is ready to move on to my second body paragraph. Now what I would like you to do is use my model plan I've given you, use this video, feel free to go back, pause, listen to parts again, but your task is to begin writing your own body paragraphs. Go.